Okay, hello everyone. My name is Laura and I'm from the School of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Central Lancashire. So we're a relatively new school with relatively new degrees and we've got interim accreditation currently for our bioveterinary sciences degree. So what I'm going to talk about today is a method of teaching that we use that some people may have heard of if you're from a veterinary or a medical background, and that's team-based or problem-based learning. So, there we go. So what exactly is team-based learning? If you haven't heard of it before, team-based learning is a method of teaching where the primary objective is to go beyond simply covering content. This is something that originated in the 70s and is fairly well established now in veterinary and medical education. And essentially it's the opposite of what I'm about to do and stand and talk at you. So we want students to be actively involved in that learning process. So essentially TBL provides an opportunity for the students to use course concepts to solve problems. So it's developing those skills in application that we want them to be able to exhibit when they go out into industry. So it's not enough to simply know, we want them to be able to apply what they know to problems that they would commonly occur in their career paths. So we do this through structured small group learning. So students are put into groups of between 5 to 7 people, and they stay in those groups all year, and they have specific sessions on their timetable that are dedicated to TBL delivery. Essentially what the students are doing in these sessions is learning to learn. They are, yes, acquiring knowledge and skills, but we want them to consolidate that knowledge and skills, and we want them to apply it, and we want them to do that together. Reason being that when they go out into the workplace, they often will be working with people that they like, and I'm sure we've all experienced people that they don't like working with. But we want them to be able to do that effectively when they leave us as graduates. So TBL fosters an inclusive, supportive learning culture. So we operate very much so in a culture of safe failure. So students are encouraged to fail, as are the staff as well. And hopefully that gets them comfortable talking to each other, talking to us, and being able to disagree when they feel like they need to disagree and explain why they disagree and come to a common solution for whatever that problem is that they're looking at. So, why use TBL? I've kind of touched on some of the reasons why there, but we find, and the evidence suggests, that it increases engagement with the course content and it increases students' motivation. So, I know everyone's probably been in an hour, 2-hour lecture where someone has talked at you. It's not very engaging and it doesn't motivate the students to want to come back to those sessions. So we in the school try and avoid that wherever we can. We also want to develop students' higher order thinking skills, so that evaluation, the analytical ability that we need them to be able to exhibit when they go out into industry as graduates. And we want, crucially, to develop their communication skills, their collaboration skills, and their leadership skills. So depending on the structure of the particular TBL, we may ask certain students each time to lead the discussion on their tables. They sit very much in tables like this in a TBL session. It doesn't work in a traditional lecture theatre. And they're encouraged to talk to each other. We're going to look at how TBLs are structured, and there's some question answering involved in this, but it's not enough for them to just answer correctly and say, that is correct because I know it is. They need to be able to discuss with each other why they think that answer is correct and why all the other potential answers are incorrect or not the best answer. So one of the reasons that we do this, or the main reason, is that, as we know and we've known for a long time, employers value graduates being in possession of a strong set of soft or work-ready skills. So we want them to be able to go out to industry, to know things, to do things, and to work with people, because they are likely always going to need to do that. Reasons why in the school in particular we really like this method is students like it, they tell us they like it, and the evidence suggests that they like it. Students are more engaged, as the evidence suggests, and students crucially achieve more. So we're starting to incorporate TBL into formal assessment now in the school. And actually the evidence suggests students achieve better grades when we use this type of delivery and this type of assessment, which is really important for them and for us. So, how does TBL work? So, typically what happens, as we've said, the students are split into predetermined groups at the beginning of the year or the beginning of their course, and they stay in that group for the duration. Sometimes there are groups where students get on better than others. We do in the school have a coaching team where if there are issues with group dynamics, the coaches will become involved and they'll coach the students through how to work together effectively. We typically don't let students move groups, even if there's quite kind of strong clashes. It's about letting them work through that. So students before the session, the timetable TBL session, have pre-class preparation or pre-learning to do. So this typically is around 20 minutes, and this would be the knowledge acquisition part of the session. So where we would typically stand and talk for 30, 40 minutes. We don't do that in a TBL. They come already knowing that knowledge that we want them to know that we would deliver. So that's the knowledge acquisition part of a TBL. When they come into that session, they then do two things straight away, and the students get used to this as the year goes on. So they do two readiness assurance tests. They do an individual readiness assurance test and then a team readiness assurance test. So the IRAT, as we call it, is, as it suggests, the students do that on their own, and they don't see the scores at all. So they just submit their questions, done. They get 5 minutes to do this in exam conditions. The team readiness assurance test they do together, so they then discuss what everyone on the table put as their correct answer, and they hopefully have that discussion of what answer they think is correct or the best answer and why that is. So this typically in the school as we do it consists of 5 multiple choice questions that are learning outcome linked, and we link them to the session learning outcome, to the module learning outcomes, and to the course learning outcomes. So once they've done that TRAT, we will then, the lecturer in charge of that session will then give immediate feedback or clarification. So we typically display the questions, students can then see the correct answer, and we clarify and consolidate that knowledge. So hopefully that means that the students then have everything that they need to be able to carry on with the rest of the session. So it replaces that initial part of a traditional lecture. After we've done that, we can then talk about any areas students do sometimes disagree with us as to what is the correct answer based on what they've read around the subject. That's our opportunity to clarify and tell them what we want them to know. We then move into clinical or just problem-solving activities. So typically the students will we might then deliver a little bit, 5 minutes or so, and refresh. They'll then get an application task to do. They do that on their tables, and staff, usually we have multiple staff who will go around and facilitate that, making sure that they're actually doing the work and that they're discussing the things that we want them to discuss. We then go between really points 4, 5 and 6. So we go back to clarify, we might do another task, and we may repeat that 3 or 4 times depending on the length of the session. So the students get the opportunity to apply, clarify and consolidate skills, knowledge, teamwork, their understanding, everything about that subject, whatever it is. And we tend to stick to a 4S framework for a TBL session. So we give them a significant problem, it's got to be relevant to their industry. We give them the same problem, so there's no kind of this table focuses on one thing and this table another. We want them all to know the same thing when they leave at the end. They have a specific choice to make. They have some specific things that they need to pull out of that session, and they all simultaneously report back. So they discuss on their tables, and then we go around and we find out what everyone has discussed, and we clarify again, this is what we want you to know. This is what you should be walking away with. It's a really important part of a TBL. So in practice, it looks something like this. Students would get some pre-learning. My background is welfare science, I'm afraid, so this is all about chickens. Students will have something such as part of an article. We don't give them reams and reams of reading to do for their pre-learning, and a video to watch. This is just one example of a TBL that we've run. They then come in and they will get questions essentially like this, a multiple choice, basic content recap from that pre-learning. It has to be linked to that. And then in the session we may recap or give them a little bit of extra knowledge. They then will perform an application task. So I'm not going to read this out, but the last part is the key bit. the student's job in this application task is to discuss the factors that will be contributing to the problem. And then they report back to us. The really crucial part for us as the lecturers is that we give them the consolidation and the clarification at the end. So that's what we want you to go away knowing. So hopefully what that produces is graduates who can go out and they can apply the knowledge and they can apply the skills in industry as they would in the workplace. That's what we want to do. So essentially the key message for TBLs is that we're hopefully creating graduates with well-rounded knowledge and skill sets, making them highly employable both within and beyond their chosen field.